Welcome to part 2 of the human scavenger, where we're doing no cybernetics, no mutations, no friends, no starting gear, no vendor shenanigans. In this part, we're going to be finishing up the basic gear find for this character. So there's a number of guaranteed items that you can find in every run. And we have yet to get the force bracelet and the miner's pick and helm. So those are the things we're getting in this video. And when I left off last time, we were in the 6-day stilt. So just got here, just turned in quests for Respeth, or rather turned in the secrets for Respeth to get a little extra experience. That was the end of the last video. And in this video, we're looking at what we can buy. So if you remember, we're running a electro bow as our weapon, which is pretty good for this early in the game, definitely. And we're low on armor, defenses in general, but we have some books that we found with our initial wayfaring. So we're doing the standard wayfaring gameplay at this point, as you'd expect. If you haven't watched that wayfaring video, I'll make sure it's linked here. But that is our general leveling strategy for the mid game all the way up to Bethesda Souza, basically. So what we're doing right now, we're just auto exploring every tile of the 6-day stilt, picking up the food that grows on those vines. If you cook it, it's worth a decent amount of money. That's how you can guarantee like 150 to 200 drams worth of value, probably at this point. And we need about 250 to 300, depending on our character and our ego, to get that force bracelet. So, along with some books or the guaranteed yonder cane that we got there from getting the Baylock quest to begin with, that should probably get it done. These Elastine gloves are a good pickup here. So the +1 agility, we're on a bow build right now. We have a decent amount of money for how early we are in the game if you count the books. So I always turn the books in after I make the rounds around the stilt to see if I can get something to jumpstart me. We're actually running an axe and a hammer, even though we have no skills in those things. Just, happen to find them. So we equipped them. We have a buckler. And now that was actually the last armor slot that we needed. But we're only at 6 AV and 5 DV. So that's kind of a bare minimum at this stage in the game. Really looking to get more than that, if at all possible. So just checking. We did just pick up some boots as well, but just seeing if there's anything much better that we'd have to change into immediately. So I think we started with 4 AV when we got to the stilt. So we've picked up a little bit, 2. But, I mean, going to from 4 to 6 is really strong for early questing. 6 is kind of the minimum where you want to be. I immediately noticed that Null Skull helm, but decide not to pick it up. You do get one off of the flattened remains that we found in the last episode, so didn't need it. Of course, always checking anything that's painted, like this gear here, because it'll give you secrets, some of which are useful, most of which are not. Once in a while, you can find a historic site or Respeth secret worth some experience, stuff like that. There's a historic site on that bottle of wine laying there. Good find. So we picked up that Bela location from the Hindran that we talked to at the very start of this video. If you accept his quest, he'll tell you go to Bela and they need some help or whatever he says. And in Bela, where we're going is to the mayor, who is guaranteed to carry a force bracelet, which I've shown before in previous videos. So there's that starfruit jam that we're cooking up. That's what we're going to sell to him to buy his force bracelet off of him. We always like to keep an eye on the kippers and the chefs for interesting things to buy for food wise. The sliced bok cheek in particular reduces fall damage, which can be useful for the Golgotha quest. And then we're also looking for cloning draft, which he has. Of course, we can't afford it, so that's a bit of a bummer. We're also keeping an eye on Ichor merchants for interesting liquids, and they often have engraved or painted vials, things like that, where you can get historic sites and other secrets. So just taking note of where all those things are. So right here is where the Hindran is, so he'll give you that quest. I'm just sitting down to identify some items that we found out there at one of the ruins. So a couple of optical scanners which weigh nothing and are worth some good value. We aren't going to be using them. I'd love to equip that techno scanner. That's my favorite cybernetic probably. Just picking up flower fields before we go into them to find Bela. That's where it always is. I always like to have the wilderness lore for the area that I'm currently exploring, because getting lost is extremely dangerous, not very healthy. Plus, you can pick up those special finds like ruins and whatnot. So, just debating what else to pick up with our extra 100 points here. And then remembering, of course, that I have the bow as our main weapon. And so we'll go ahead and pick that up. Just that basic skill is enough to be more than proficient with rifles in this game. Very efficient skill tree. Find some ruins here. And Assault Hopper. Not something you want to be fighting early on, realistically. So we activate our wings and we leave. We can come back to that later. So here's Bela. It always has loot laying on these tables, and it can be just about anything. If you watched that last series about mastering the Truekin, you know I found a flamethrower laying on one of those tables. So very valuable place to come and auto explore. I think I picked up 2 unidentified artifacts there, so good start. Might find something good there. But this is the guy that's going to give me the force bracelet. You can take his quest and you can do it, and it'll give you 2 items usually, if I'm remembering correctly. But what we really want is this odd trinket here, and it is 297 drams. So I thought it would be between 250 and 300. I'm just looking for a chair to sit down on so that we can identify these trinkets. Wrist fan, not worth much. Defoliant grenade, not worth much. Just to get a little extra value for this trade. Hoping not to have to trade books to make this happen, of course. I have no idea what this is. I picked it up in a purple chest here. I've never seen it before. I don't know what it does. It's worth money. We'll go ahead and trade it. Maybe somebody in the comments can tell me what that might do. But I've never seen it. It's not for this quest, as far as I can tell. Maybe it is. I don't know. I've never seen it. Get rid of that yonder cane that the Hindran gave me, and then we'll fill out the rest of that value with this spine fruit jam. So there we go. Force bracelet. Now the challenge, of course, is getting a battery in it. Keeping enough batteries on hand this early in the game to keep it running. Because we're also using a battery powered weapon, of course. So we don't have anything at the moment. Very much on the lookout for more batteries, if we can find them. That's the next step in the quest for the Bela, for Bela's town, to sort out their politics, but we're not going to do it right now. We're just going to move on to the next stage of getting all the loot we need. Still wayfaring on the way, abusing our wings wherever we can. Any overworld map like this, you know that you've got some safety with those wings, because if you get into trouble, you can hit fly and then leave the map. You can also, of course, hit fly and then avoid melee dudes until you fall, which you will inevitably. It's like 5% chance to fall to the ground per turn, I believe. Good find with some books, secrets, tons of books even. Looks like we've got a cybernetics rack over there too. So this ruin is a ruin with becoming nooks, which is a rare find, really good. They're making me fight for it though, that's for sure. Tanky enemies and slug snouts and things like that. Hmm. Quills at level 5 to 6 and 2 MA. Probably the best pick here. Might get a little use out of that. The 2 MA, at the very least, is good for Seekers of the Sightless Eye that you come up against, things like that. You do, of course, lose some armor by having this mutation online, because it takes up our body slot. Oh, it gives 3 armor, though. So, not the worst thing. It's actually the same. Actually, we gained 2 DV because our ring mail was negative 2 DV, so that works out. In the future, if we use this, it wouldn't be as good, but it's pretty good right now. Might as well take it. Just gotta break our way into the cybernetics rack here. Another optical technoscanner, like it's rubbing it in my face. Back to the still. Always like to check if I found any Respeth secrets because I sometimes miss them, pick them up on accident or whatever. And when you look at that, our Sheba is a Dromad merchant. Lucky find. Some people get Chrome Pyramids and then they can't even turn in their books. Instead, we got a Dromad merchant. That's YouTuber luck, I think. Just have a look and see what he has in his inventory here. If nothing else, we could change into silver nuggets, save some weight. Kim cells, absolutely. Maybe solar cells instead. Given that with Wayfaring, we basically just stay on the surface almost always until we're like level 20 ish. So solar cells are definitely superior in the current strategy that we're running here. Still have 111 of those spine fruit jams if we need money. We've got these books here too. Books are always worth good money, and there's effectively an infinite supply of them. So just kind of balancing, giving some of them for money and some of them for experience. You can see those were at least 300 on average experience each. Got a couple levels there. I usually tend to think that the books are like 350 experience each, probably 300 to 350, but some of those were up in the 600s, so we had some good books there. I don't know if there's any way to tell what they're worth a priori to talking to Sheba. But we're going to get our experience, our reputation up with the mechanists here, like always. Um, you always have to get, if you give them two secrets, you get up to 200 rep, and then you need an extra 50 rep to be favored with them. If you have the tactful skill, then you would only need 25 extra rep, I think it is, in order to be favored. And that just helps us with the Bethesda Souza quest later on. That's probably a good gun, but it's pretty hard to beat 10 penetration on this electro bow at this point in the game. You'd be looking at like Eigen pistols, Eigen rifles, or those are, I think those are pen 11, penetration 11, and then hand cannons are 13. Is there a 12 penetration ranged weapon? I'm not able to think of it off the top of my head right now, if there is. So there aren't a huge number of options. Obviously, at this point, we're looking at getting into pistols at some point, which is usually my standard technique or strategy, is getting into pistols and using disarm in order to then upgrade to even better pistols by disarming turrets. But rifle's plenty good for the early game. It kind of falls off, I think, late game because the lack of skills that support it. In other words, I find the skills for the rifle are lackluster overall. Let me know if you think if you hear me say that and you think nonsense, the rifle skills are amazing. Tell me, because the couple of times I've tried them, I've always felt that they take too long. They're a bit clunky. Constantly reapplying the targeting skill and then hitting the enemy and then reapplying it. It just too clunky. So all our skills are looking good here. We're at 22 int, 22 base agility, 22 strength. So the next time we level up at level 12, so two levels actually, we're going to get a point in all of those, and then they'll all be 23, which gets us all of our skills that we're aiming for. So that's Tinker 2 for int it's disarm for agility, and for strength, it's the tank and the other heavy weapon skill, which I'm blanking on right now. Swift reflexes is pretty much something I always pick up sometime in the early to mid game. It's good for any ranged enemy. And of course, we're going to completely negate melee enemies at this point, given our bubble force bracelet. Does pretty well against ranged enemies too, of course, but lasers can go through the bubble. So then this kickback skill under tactics, you want to keep an eye on that and get that at some point. It works with all ranged weapons, and if they get in melee range, you can knock them back. And it's very effective, especially if you're multi-wielding pistols with multiple shots, like say chain guns. You pretty much always knock them back once they get in melee range. So it's a very strong defensive skill. So now we're going to head back to Joppa, pick up ruins here on the way. Stumbled into a little snapjaw nest. I think that's our first face slot item. Um, the sap mask. I'd like to have one of those. One of the either a gas mask or the sap mask are good for preventing some gaseous effects and spores. I think it gives you some resistance to, and some of the diseases in Golgotha, maybe. I'm pretty sure that was at least once the case. And so when I find those, I equip it. Look at that. The friendly turret here helping take down the croc. So we do have the inspired active effect right now. So whenever we get that, we're just trying to mix some things together and make a interesting recipe that we might want to use in the future, even though we don't need it right now. So intimidate when you get at low health is pretty good. Scare enemies away. So we'll just put that in our stash of recipes for later. That's got to be another force bracelet or something, right? At 65, it's probably more like a compass bracelet or something like that. We'll check. Starting to pick up those stun rods is always good because they come with Kim cells. We need to start stocking up on that kind of stuff. Yeah, compass bracelet. Go ahead and collect the cell out of that. Collect the cell out of this. Just always checking for data disks that are useful for in-game. Looking for handrails, flamethrowers, spacer pistols. What else? I guess for this run, that's those are kind of the main things we'd really want. But anything else that's interesting, hover boots or I don't know, various mods. Go ahead and check out this injector here. I like to get all of those identified early. I end up going with not the injector. Thermal grenade. Go ahead and equip that. We didn't have any grenades equipped. So now we're going into waterlogged tunnels. And I do this every game because there is the guaranteed corpse that gives you miner's helmet, the miner's pick, and credit wedges, some other little stuff as well. Not every game do you require all those items, but the pick is always useful, and all that stuff can be sold if nothing else. Obviously, not using credit wedges this game, but they're good money. And the pick you can buy from Mafio in Gritgate. If you need one, they're pretty cheap, but I like to have one on me early. And so I just always go get this guaranteed item drop. At this stage, we're level 10. And so waterlogged tunnel is relatively easy. And if you progress down past that miner's corpse, which we'll see in just a minute here, you can finish the Red Rocks quest as well, which gives you 3 salve injectors, an Uber Nostrum injector, and a couple other things. So those are really handy to have, especially considering we threw our salve injectors on the ground at the beginning of the game. So that extra DV when against ranged weapons coming in handy here. Look at all these ranged guys. Arrows and bullets and seeds, spitters, and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, our light source right now is coming from our electro bow. Um, Normally, in a normal game, I guess, or the average game, I should say, we would still potentially be relying on torches at this point. And so getting that miner's helm would be a big pickup. It basically carries you until you get to the guaranteed drop in the asphalt mines, which is a floating glow sphere. And then usually I take that pretty much the whole game, unless I find something super good to put in the floating spot. Another Kim cell if we need it. Gotta love being able to hit these guys as they walk across the water or swim across the water. You hit them with range. There's Salt Hopper. We dodged one of these earlier, but Electro Bow takes it out quite handily. Serrated sword might be worth something. Quilted shawls don't weigh much. One, I think, and they're worth a little something. If you're not playing a true kin of the cold-blooded cast, that scarf, quilted shawl rather, can be good for getting some cold resistance if you need it for Bethesda Souza later on. So here's where it comes in handy to have a few recipes on hand. We're going to go with the quills, which gives us a little extra DV, keeps our AV the same, and then just gives us that quill fling ability, which can be useful when you're surrounded. But yeah, just using good tactics here, fighting around a corner so the ranged guys can't get us and we can't get grouped up on. Basic roguelike tactics. Nice self injector. Another weird artifact. It's a chem cell and some junk on top of it. Ooh, what do we have here? A little party of mechanists. Nice find. Water, no, oil ritual. Can't do that yet. There's spacer pistol. Airfoil is good for grenade modifications. I do like grenades quite a lot. I need to get in the habit of using them more often. I feel like they're underutilized in my runs, generally speaking. I pretty much just use EMP grenades against endgame bosses with reflective shielding. And once in a great while, I use like the basic explosive grenades here and there. But like, I kind of want to do an all grenade run. I wonder if that would be interesting. Got a comment the other day about running thermal grenades plus plasma grenades to emulate the flamethrower spacer pistol combo I'm so fond of. So I might have to try that. But yeah, I think we'll pick up this airfoil mod. A gyrocopter backpack can always be handy if you want better flight than your mechanical wings give you. But then you got to carry a bunch of oil around with you, and it's pretty heavy. So, disliked by bears. We'll keep this guy's location in mind, though, for later if we need that rep. All right, that's what the force bracelet's for. Geez, they just won't leave me alone. I just want to heal, please. Interesting little farmer, water vine farmer hideout here. Use his campfire while I'm at it. Nothing of interest. All right, so I'm standing in water, so we don't want to walk because it's slow. That was our trouble before. We were trying to swim through water and get shot at the same time. Not a good place to be. Another electro bow pickup there. Pretty lucky run for those. With our 23 strength, I guess we're only at 22 still, but the double handed axe hammer combo, it can do work even without skills, especially against this low level stuff. Might as well save our battery. Yeah, so we're 4 stratas deep now. We're just following the river north, if that wasn't clear. Just chew through these guys one at a time in this corridor here. Another quilted shawl we'll pick up. Always picking up daggers and things like that for money. Usually weapons are worth a little something anyway, or I should say, good weight value to weight proposition. Hated by fungi, disliked by villagers, and disliked by the cult of the coiled lamb. He's a good one to kill. Wounded. Yep, pretty easy. Nice pickup there. So many snouts down here. It's a real mixed bag, the waterlogged tunnel. Last game we got turrets, rifle turrets. This time we get slug snouts. Sometimes it's just like crabs and knoll worms and things. That's why I don't like doing it at level one. Like you can, but if you wait, till a level 9, 10, 11, 12 range, you're going to be much better situated, much higher health, much better defenses. So if you get a bad roll on enemies that spawn, you'll be in better shape. Better to fight this in a corridor again. We were just trying to hide around that corner while we had ranged enemies on screen. There's that kickback in effect. Don't like to get into melee with those no worms if we can help it, because they can crack armor, crack items, whatever. Maybe it's just armor, I'm not sure. Starting to look at trash divining eventually to get some secrets. So we'll save our skill points until we can get there. Boy, a lot of them on this screen. One plated no worm, two regular ones. Here's another one. I like to keep some kind of buff online while we're down here. So we got that inspired effect from leveling up again. See if we can find something good here. A couple good options here. That whenever you take damage, you have a chance to heal is probably one of the best options in the game. But at this low level, we really like the plus to max HP, and reflect isn't bad either down here because that reflect damage can just about kill things that hit you. But the max HP is huge, so we're just going to do that for now. We'll come back around to the whenever you take damage, there's a chance to heal later. A little bit of awkward positioning here, so we'll pull back. Right there, that extra HP coming in handy. We could have ran, we could have popped shield, but didn't need to because we had that buff. More null worms. Staying in a melee longer than I'd like to with those. Over there to the left is our purple bone pile that we are looking for. So cybernetics, credit wedge, 1 cent, pickaxe, miner's helm, canned have it all. And of course, the unidentified artifact there is the sphere of negative weight, which is quite good, worth -10 weight. Just remembering I'm missing an armor slot because our quills buff from long ago wore off. Just looking at what that costs. Too much. Obviously, we're not doing it right now anyway, but just out of curiosity. Sphere negative weight. Pull the Kim cell out of that while we have an opportunity. Okay, so we're just going to keep going north now to do the Red Rocks quest while we're down here. No worms just trying to eat all of my Kim cell charge. They're worth some XP though, so what are you going to do? Nice historic site by chance. I think his movement there on that plated null worm might have been due to the knockback effect. Like I was hitting him as he would have stepped into melee range and it kept him away. Not sure on the exact programming of how that works, but it sure seemed like he should have stepped into melee range but wasn't able to. Just being a little more liberal now with the electro bow usage. When you have that many enemies on the screen, best to get them dead faster than otherwise. At least these null worms give a good cooking byproduct. That worm meat is good for extra HP and things like that. So it's also worth like 2.5 drams, I think, once you cook it. So it's a kind of valuable item. So now we're in the Red Rock Parsang now. Look at this guy. Snapjaw King, but he looks like a mechamist. Interesting find. Snapjaws. A couple villages go up. So what's his deal? Plated chromeling disguise. I picked up there. Engraved bow. We already have that secret. There it is. It's a shawl. Gives reputation with the bears. Oh yeah, he's one of them, not a mechamist. What a cool item to find. 18 cold resist. That's better than your average quilted shawl. Willowy. It was engraved and gives all that rep, 500 some rep with the bears. Not like you're ever short on bear reputation, of course, but you know, if you needed it for something, there you go. You don't often see something like that. Snapjaw walking around looking like one of those robots. Pretty cool. All right, so now we're in the main parsang, or the main center screen of the parsang of Red Rock, and we find our quest item here, which is this enemy. We got to be careful not to vaporize it with our bow, which is why we go into melee range with it. Make sure to pick up the corpse, and now we're just running back to Joppa. Turn that in. I generally go this route to get the Red Rock quest done, rather than actually going to the above ground Red Rock parsang, fighting off apes, and then working your way down through 3 levels of kind of maze like tunnels. Ooh, missed this the first time. Did I? Oh no, these are the same guys from before. This is that farmer hideout. That's not the stairs we're looking for. Still the same stuff as before, I think. He wouldn't have had time to reset his inventory just yet. So we'll go turn this quest in. I guess I got to talk to this guy first. Did I not pick the corpse up? Oh boy. Well, at least it's a clear pathway back, huh? The old walk of shame here through the waterlogged tunnels. There we go. Double checking. Yeah, got 2 of them actually. Oh, ugh. So I was just saying I prefer to go through the waterlogged tunnels, but actually you've got to check in on the above ground parsang at least once. It's part of the quest, and so you aren't even allowed to turn this quest in until you do that. How annoying is that? So not only did we do a walk of shame with the Gershling corpse in our inventory to get a second Gershling corpse, which we didn't need, we also now have to go back and do the walk of shame above ground or wherever to the Red Rocks to get that quest. Feels like to me that if you're on the 4th strata down of Red Rocks, that quest prerequisite ought to trigger, right? Like you're still in Red Rocks, so why can't the quest trigger down here? I swear you didn't used to have to do that. The bad grammar. Sorry. There we go. Trigger that quest. Come back. Take my quest, please. There we go. All right, so that's pretty much going to be the end of this second video here. We've got all of our basic items that we need, the wings, the miner's pick, force bracelet, and so on. We've got a weapon. We're looking good. We actually picked up floating glow spear as well. Feeling pretty solid here. So in the next video, we're going to be leveling up and getting ready for the Golgotha quest, which we want to do before level 18. So we'll be using Wayfaring primarily and getting ready for that challenge and then heading into Grit Gate. So hope I see you in the next one.